So I grew up in Hopstadt at St. Peter and Paul Catholic Parish in Gibson County. My parents have a farm there. I grew up as one of 7 kids. So my family, I would say, is a typical Catholic family. We went to Mass every Sunday, go out to breakfast afterward when we could on sometimes. When we traveled, we looked for Mass, but we didn't do too many extra things. We weren't the kind of family that prayed the rosary around the dinner table or like made pilgrimages to special holy sites. But the faith was important. I was pretty sure when I went that I was supposed to be a priest. And I think part of that for me was I did not want to give up what I had unless I knew what I was going into was going to work, which is the opposite advice that I give as vocation director to most of the guys that I talk to. Because most of the guys I talk to, they're like, I'm not really sure. And I'm like, well, you're not going to know until you go. And when I went, I knew, right? I knew it. So I'm not lying to them. But today, I think it's much more difficult for guys to take the step. And that's why we have the House of Discernment and other ministries, right? So they can start looking at it as an easier stepping stone versus like leaving the entire thing behind and going all in. We currently use 4 seminary locations outside of the House of Formation here. So the House of Formation is kind of like ground zero. That's where all our appropriate men do their first year of seminary formation. After that, the college level guys, so guys who don't have a college bachelor's degree yet, will go to Marian University and Bishop Simon Bertay College Seminary for the most part. They'll go up there for the next 3 years, sophomore, junior, and senior year, to complete their philosophy studies. Henrik Glennon is a second campus. We use that for both philosophy and theology studies, whether it's a college level or the kind of the master's degree level for theology. And so guys can complete their studies at Kenrick. And then our third campus, which is our most common one that everybody knows in the diocese, which is St. Meinrad, close to home here. Most of our guys go there for philosophy or theology, but both at the master's levels. The fourth campus is Rome, and we send a few guys there to do their theology studies. So that's beyond philosophy at the college level or the master's level. And we have a couple of guys that have gone through that program so far. So the guys in formation are getting their first year, which is called a propedeutic stage, completed. It allows them to grow as men and as Christians prior to the rigors and demands of growing as a student of philosophy, which can be pretty hard, and growing as a minister in a parish. Now, they still get a taste of education and of parish ministry, but the primary focuses are who are you as a person, and are you where you need to be, and who are you as a Christian, and are you where the Lord wants you to be, or the church needs you to be. For our guys, they get to meet all the priests of the diocese who will be their brothers, the bishop who will be their shepherd, and the people who will either be their co-workers or sheep, right, or their parishioners. And so by being here, they get a much better sense of what our diocese is, and they can say, yeah, I really think I do fit, and I am called to these people before going off to Indianapolis or St. Louis or St. Meinrad to start their studies, and then only coming home, sometimes. So it bears great fruit in creating a culture of vocations because people are seeing the guys more often and are more invested in their future as their future pastors. So the House of Discernment was opened in the fall of 2018 by Bishop Siegel when he had first come to our diocese. He was here less than a year. That was meant to be a place in the old rectory at Sacred Heart. That was meant to be a place for guys who weren't sure what they should do yet, to get a taste of what seminary could be like. After being there 6 months or a year, you'll say, oh, I definitely feel like I'm more myself here. And so I want more of this to become even more of myself. Or a guy will say, like, this has been good and I've grown in holiness, but I'm not called to live this way. And so now that I'm a better Catholic man, I'm going to go off on my own and figure out my vocations marriage or whatever else this is. The Savio Brotherhood is close to my heart. It's something that it's really filled me up with lots of energy and hope. The fruit of it I see is that these guys now all know each other from all these parishes. They all have a common language toward holiness, which is the 4 promises of Dominic Savio: pray, feast, befriend, and sacrifice, so they can find and follow their call and become a holy man. And then the fruit that's going to bear, I think, in the future is just, well, I can't wait to see it. I think both we're going to see an increase in vocations to priesthood because guys are not going to be lost. They won't be on islands anymore. But also I think that the men who are being called to marriage are going to be so much holier as husbands and fathers and better for their parish communities and better for the church and for the world. The Siena Sisterhood was started 3 years after the Savio Brotherhood was started. The girls basically came to me, many of them, over many months and said, like, where's the thing for girls, And so I said, well, we need some leaders. And so some young adult women stepped up. And they've done a tremendous job. Most of them were in college at the time or just after college. And most of them are still leading the Siena group. And they basically started the same thing we did with Savio, but for girls. And so instead of it being St. Dominic Savio, it's St. Catherine of Siena. Instead of the motto being pray, feast, befriend, sacrifice, it's community, virtue, growth, and heart. Success is a hard question in vocations. most people measure success on numbers, because the most common question I get across the board from anyone, priest, bishop, parish leaders, parishioners, high school kids, is how many guys do we have this year, right? It's how many guys in the house, how many guys in the house of formation, how many guys in the seminary, how many getting ordained. It's always how many, right? And I think that desire in that question is natural and normal. Like, I want to know how many people are on the poster too, you know? The measuring stick should be, are we getting the men the Lord is calling? And if the answer is yes, then success. And if the answer is no, then failure. If a guy thinks he has a call to priesthood, but is not, but he doesn't, if the Lord's not calling him to that ministry, he's calling him to something else, he'll be unhappy and miserable, and so will his people. And so success, I think, needs to be measured in, are the guys who are hearing a call to priesthood finding and following that vocation? And right now, I think if you look at both numbers and the quality of the guy, I think we're doing pretty well. One thing that I did not expect as a blessing from the Lord is the number of people who want to be involved in what we do in this office. Vocations are a special thing, and I think everyone's invested because they know it's going to affect them and their future, their family. There's no way that all the things we do in our diocesan ministry, there's no way we could do it without people saying we're in too. And so while they might see, people on the outside might see the vocations office as like this room in this building at this property in northern Vanderbilt County, or like they might see me or Carla as like the vocations office, that is not the case, because the vocations office and the vocations ministry team is way bigger, and we need it, and I'm grateful for it.